The two biggest problems I see in IELTS letters are purpose and tone. A former IELTS examiner on our team. The purpose of the letter reflects how well you answer the task by presenting all the information the examiner is expecting from you in a clear, logical way. And nothing more, nothing irrelevant. The tone, which we're going to look into today, is how formal or informal your language is. I know this part is confusing for many, but I've prepared some good examples that will hopefully make things easier for you. And this lesson is coming from my paid course. It's a free preview. It's Sassy here. Let's get started. To get Band 7 Plus for your task achievement, the tone of your letter must be consistent and appropriate. Band 6 means that there are some inconsistencies in your tone. It means that in some places your letter is more formal and in some more informal. And the tone of your letter is not the same throughout. And if your tone is sometimes inappropriate, it's a sign of Band 5 for your task achievement. An inappropriate tone means that you say something that you shouldn't. Either something very informal in a formal letter or vice versa, something very formal in an informal letter. Now, I'd like to show you how you can create an informal, semi-formal, and formal tone. First of all, the first and the last words of your letter clearly show the tone. These are your greeting and ending. In informal letters, use the first name in your greeting, Dear Kate or Dear Adam. Finish these letters with an informal ending. Warmest regards, lots of love, take care, and your first name. You can use warmest regards with a friend who is older than you are or your parents-in-law, and lots of love and take care with very close friends. In semi-formal letters, you can address the reader by their first name or by their surname. For example, you can say, Dear Kate, if you address a colleague you know well or your neighbor. In other cases, use the surname, Dear Mr. Black. Now let's talk about titles you should use for women. If you're writing to a non-married woman, say Dear Miss Black. If you're writing to a married woman, say Dear Mrs. Black. And when you're unsure if a woman is married or not, say Dear Ms. Black. And you can say Dear Mr. and Mrs. Black, addressing a husband and wife. Please note that in British English, we don't put a full stop after common titles. Mr. Black or Mrs. Black, no full stop. In American English, there is usually a full stop. And you can use either British or American English in your writing. Just use one consistently. And this course is written in British English. Endings in semi-formal letters are different too. Best regards, kind regards, best wishes. And then either your first name or your full name, depending on how well you know the addressee. I'd use my first name with my neighbor and my full name in any business correspondence. Let's talk about formal letters. Sometimes we begin the letter with Dear Sir or Madam. That's if we don't know the name of the addressee, or actually if this phrase was given in the task. In other cases, use the surname, Dear Mr. Black, Dear Mrs. Black, and do not use the first name in formal letters, not Dear Kate. As for the ending phrases, those differ slightly from country to country. I'm giving you the British version. Yours faithfully, if you don't know the name of the addressee, and you started your letter with Dear Sir or Madam, and yours sincerely. If you know the name and you started the letter with Dear Mr. Black and your full name. Let's talk about other informal and formal words in English. Most words in English are neutral and can be used anywhere. But some words are formal and should not be used in informal letters, while informal words should only be kept for informal letters. Let me show you some. To get is quite an informal verb. I've got a new phone. To buy is neutral. I've bought a new smartphone. And to purchase is formal. I have purchased a new smartphone. Similarly, the phrase on top of that is informal. On top of that, my flight's been cancelled. Also, to and as well are neutral. My flight's also been cancelled. And moreover is formal. Moreover, my flight has been cancelled. To kick off. That's an informal phrasal verb meaning to start. To start is neutral, and to commence is formal. To grill. That means to ask many questions and it's informal. To ask is neutral and can be used in any type of letters, and to request is more formal. To have a go or to have a shot at something means to try something. But these phrases are informal, while to try is neutral and to endeavor is formal. To wind up or to pull the plug on, it means to end. And again, these phrases are informal, to end is neutral, to terminate is formal. And one more, to show up at. To show up at an event, that's informal. To go to an event, neutral. To attend an event, formal. Next, colloquialisms and idioms. These are informal words and expressions. For example, to pull the plug on means to end. To nip it in the bud means to stop something when it has just begun because you can see that problems will come from it. Let's just nip it in the bud. Once in a blue moon, it means very rarely. Or to cost an arm and a leg, that's to be very expensive. Colloquialisms and idioms are informal. You can use them in your informal letters, but not in semi-formal or formal ones. Linking words. Similarly, some linking words are formal and some are informal. You can find the PDF list of them in the 3rd chapter. Now, let me show you a couple of linking words which are very common but can become informal at the beginning of sentences. So, do not begin your sentences with but, and also in semi-formal and formal letters. In a letter to a friend, I could write, I can't meet you on Saturday as I'm going on holiday, but we could catch up on Friday night. What do you think? In a letter to a colleague, though, it's better to say, I won't be able to meet you on Monday as I'm off next week. However, I'm in the office on Friday if you're available. Contractions. These are short versions of words that use an apostrophe instead of letters, such as isn't, which means is not, I'm, I am, don't, the full form is do not, doesn't, does not, I'd. This D can either stand for would or had. It's. S can be it is or it has. Can't. It means cannot, and please note cannot is one word, won't is will not, and shan't is shall not. You should use contractions in informal letters. If you don't, it will be a sign of an inappropriate tone. You can use some full forms in informal letters too, but at least some must be contracted. And you shouldn't use them in your formal letters. In semi-formal, you can. Some forms can be contracted and others full. Exclamation mark. You can use exclamation marks in your informal letters, but not too many, maybe 1 or 2. In other types of letters, don't. For instance, in an informal letter, in my opening statement, I could write, "Congratulations on your graduation this past weekend." And in the closing statement, "Congratulations again and all the best wishes for the future." However, in formal letters, there would be no exclamation mark. An opening statement, "Congratulations on your promotion to the position of marketing assistant." Closing statement, "We're happy to have you continue as a member of our team and wish you well in your new position." Many other elements of your letter also depend on if it's formal or informal. For example, whether to use the passive voice or not, the modal verbs, and even your sentence length. We're going to talk about all of them in a minute. If you find this lesson helpful so far, I'd like you to know that you can prepare for your IELTS writing and speaking sections in a similar in-depth step-by-step format with my IELTS General Pack. There is a special offer for you in the description below. I'm sure it can help you prepare in less time with less stress and achieve a better score. I've also prepared all the slides from this lesson as a PDF and you can download them there too. And now back to the lesson. Sentence length. Normally, your sentences are shorter and simpler if your tone is informal and longer and more complex if it's formal. For example, in a semi-formal letter to a landlord, I would write, "My only difficulty is the rent, which, although reasonable, is too high for me to afford to pay alone. Therefore, I would like to ask your permission to find another flatmate who would share the cost with me." A similar information in an informal letter to a friend would look like that. "The rent at my current place is a bit too high for me. I know you have a spare bedroom in your house. Would you be interested in renting it out by any chance?" You see, in the informal letter, sentences are shorter and simpler. The passive voice. In informal letters, we prefer the active voice, while in formal letters, the passive voice is much more common. For example, you're writing an informal letter to a friend, and you want your friend to water your flowers. If you say, "The flowers should be watered twice a week," it will be a wrong tone. That's a passive voice, but when you're talking to your friend, you should use the active voice. "Could you water my flowers twice a week?" Here is another example. "The university application should be submitted by you before Christmas." This tone is inappropriate. You should use the active voice. Try to submit your application before Christmas. Now let's have a look at a formal example. That's a letter to a newspaper. "I'm writing to tell you that the information you have provided in a recent article is wrong." Again, this tone is inappropriate here. That's the active voice. You should use the passive voice. "I'm writing to notify you about incorrect information that has been provided in a recent article." So instead of saying that the information you have provided, we say the information has been provided. It's much more polite and more formal. And another example. A letter to a shop. You should extend the opening hours of your shop. That's the active voice. A better example would be, the opening hours of your shop should be extended. Requests. In formal styles, we tend to use indirect requests. The bottom stair is broken and needs to be repaired to avoid an accident. So the first sentence is passive. It's an indirect request. In less formal styles, we prefer direct requests. Could you feed my cat while I'm away? And not, my cat needs to be fed while I'm away. In semi-formal styles, you can use a combination of both. The washing machine seems to be broken. Could you please have a look at it and decide if it should be repaired or replaced? Here I've used both the passive and active voice. Emotional language. If your writing is personal, you can openly share your feelings and emotions. In formal writing, we tend to be more reserved. In an informal letter to a friend, you would say, "I'm so happy about my new job and I can't wait to start." In a letter to your new employer, it's better to write, "I would like to thank you for this opportunity and I look forward to starting my new role next week." Perhaps you could say that you are delighted to receive the job offer, but saying that you can't wait to start would be too informal. The second example contains the same information, but emotions are not as clearly expressed as in the first. Here are some words we use in informal and formal letters to talk about our emotions. Informal tone. I'm upset, angry, annoyed, frustrated, sad, appalled. Formal tone. I'm disappointed, distressed, dismayed, inconvenienced, discouraged, dissatisfied, discontented. Politeness. Be more direct with friends and less direct, more polite in formal letters. We often choose to use certain modal verbs to be more or less polite. For example, can I suggest you try this software? That's more informal. May I suggest you try this software? That's more formal. Might I suggest is very formal. Dropping words. In informal English, we drop unnecessary words, while in formal English, we don't. For example, the flat I rent is informal, the flat that I rent is more formal. The woman I met, or the woman whom I met, it's much more formal. I haven't received the photo camera I paid for. That's more informal. I have not received the photo camera for which I paid. This is much more formal. Now, let's talk about semi-formal style. What is a semi-formal style? It varies significantly depending on to whom you write. A letter to your neighbor is perhaps closer to an informal letter. A letter to a colleague at work is a bit more formal, but less formal than a letter to your manager. And perhaps a letter to your landlord will be quite formal even if you know them well. By the way, a landlord is a person from whom you rent your flat. And all these letters will be semi-formal. The semi-formal style is the most flexible. Remove very informal phrases and remove very formal phrases, and everything else can be used in semi-formal letters. The key is to stay consistent. The same letter can be written with a varying degree of formality. If you write to a friend, it could be a close friend you've known all your life, or a senior friend you meet occasionally. Your language would differ. Similarly, a letter to a shop can't be informal, but it can be more or less formal depending on your personality. The most important thing is to stay consistent. If you mix more informal and more formal phrases in the same letter, you'll lose points. Use the same tone throughout your letter. And the last point, positive and negative messages. Your tone in all complaints and negative messages should be more formal than in positive messages. For example, if you write a letter to a photography school, you'll be less formal if you're providing great feedback and more formal if you complain. Even when you write a letter to a friend, you'll be more informal inviting them to a party and less informal reminding your friend to return that laptop they borrowed a month ago. I've also prepared a comprehensive guide with typical phrases used in informal, semi-formal, and formal letters of different types, invitations, complaints, requests, and so on, and you'll find it in the IELTS General Pack. The special offer is waiting for you in the video description, as well as a link to download all the slides from today's lesson. I also have a full demonstration of our courses if you'd like to learn more here, and I'll show you how this pack can help you prepare for your exam quickly and give you the best chance of passing it. Thank you so much for watching me today. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. Bye!